Hey everyone, it's Fitz with your daily delivery. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing great. Going to have a very good weekend of watching some college football. Great games in the Big 12. Games I want to watch. Kansas, Iowa State, Tech at Colorado, the Holy War out in Utah. Man, it's going to be a fun weekend and a little K-State basketball mixed in. Better than barbecue. Okay, I went too far. Nothing's better than barbecue. Today we're going to continue our kind of self-evaluation of Kansas State football and some of the trends and things that maybe they need to change to get going again after a disappointing loss in Houston. But I want to start it with this. Please remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the thumbs up, and leave those comments. Nah, that was dirty. I didn't mean to do it that way. I did it. Anyhow, let's start with this. This isn't as bad as you think. It really isn't. It's frustrating. And there are calls when put under the microscope you don't like. And I've talked about that. But our good friend El Camino Cat, one of our prolific posters at Wabash Station, went through all of the plays, Kansas State offensive plays for the last two games, and diagnosed how often they're running it and throwing it. And they're throwing it more often than running it, which I thought was interesting. And he even went as far to map out where every run went and the success rate. So remember that these percentages are for running plays only. And this is just for the last two games. And I just found it very interesting. On running plays, which have been only like 46% of Kansas State's plays, the Wildcats run between the guards about 63% of the time. A little under 2/3 of running plays are right up the middle. Maybe that's a little predictable because everyone's kind of keying on that. But of course, the quickest way to get to a point is directly, and that's basically what they're doing. Going to the outside, which is off tackle, somewhere in there, they do that 20% of the time. I'm going to get to the yardage here in a second. And maybe that needs to be mixed in a little bit, but you weren't going to see a lot of that in rainy conditions at Houston. You saw some of it, but it just didn't work because your momentum's going towards the sideline. Then you have to cut, and in slippery conditions, it's not ideal. Now, kind of loading up and going right off tackle, which we saw DJ Giddens have some success with in the last two games, does work. And the QB run, which is really kind of disappearing, is about 17% of running plays. It's only about 9% of all plays, so about 1 in 10 plays. And it's clear Avery Johnson hasn't fully recovered. Hopefully this week gets him there because I'm going to be honest. This offense needs his legs and not just running. He needs to be the Avery Johnson we have seen at times. Very definitive in his running, confident in his running, and knowing he's going to get hit and just taking the hit. It's tough, but we're in the final three games coming up with the season with maybe a Big 12 championship if the Cats went out and someone beats Colorado, and maybe it's just a bowl game. But there's more football to be played. Here's the run averages for those three types of runs. The interior running game is picking up about 4.5 yards a carry. And that sounds good, but unfortunately that can come in the form of 4 carries, 1 of 15 and 3 of 1 yard. That gets you to 4.5 yards a carry. And there is kind of a limited success rate as of late with that interior running game. Basically since the third quarter of the Colorado game when they made some adjustments and loaded up the middle. Well, the defenders are in the middle now. The outside run game is averaging almost 11 yards a carry. 11 yards. When they get to the edge, and look, that includes some jet sweeps that were taken down behind the line of scrimmage. So they're making some damage. And the quarterback run game, the least used part of the running offense, is at 6.3%. Basic football tells you you have to establish that interior run game. But it doesn't mean you have to pick up yardage. You have to make them answer. And they are answering at the start of the game with a lot of defenders. I covered a game for K-State football back when Bill Snyder was just returning from his retirement. We were up at Iowa State. And Iowa State was taking away the run game, doing a great job defensively because they always play pretty good defense. And for a number of plays, I would say 75% of the plays at one point in the game were the quarterback rising up and throwing it out into the flat where he had 2 or 3 receivers and the whole blocking thing. And, and they weren't overly successful in yardage. They did pick up some yardage. But the reason why they weren't successful in yardage is once Iowa State figured out that's what was up, those guys in the middle were going out. Their attention now wasn't on the running back. It was getting out as linebackers and trying to get the receivers down. And K-State went back to running, and it worked. So sometimes plays set up plays. But I'll say this. They're going to have to develop a running game that gets players off tackle, gets them into those linebackers and onto the edge, a little bit away from the opposing defense. El Camino, great job with the numbers. There's a ton of information in there. If you're a subscriber, make sure you go check it out. It's really helpful stuff.